Hey everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Let There Be Light. My name is Dee and today's video is called Love Your Enemy. Today I want to talk about loving your enemy. Now it is easy to go the extra mile for a friend, but it is really hard to do it for someone you don't like. And in your life you come across a lot of people, and some you don't like and some you even hate. Maybe there are even people who've done terrible things. But Jesus asks us to go the extra mile. Let's read a piece of the Bible on what he said about this. We're gonna read in Matthew 5, verse 43 to 47. You have heard that it was said, "You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy." But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends his rain on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even Gentiles do the same? As Christians, we have an obligation to show God's love and be different. And I can tell you, it's not easy. It's something you will have to learn and train yourself in, but it's so rewarding to see the fruit that comes out of it. You know, as humans, we are comfortable with people around us who think alike, people who we like. But like Jesus said, do not even tax collectors love those who love them? And with that, Jesus wants to say, if we hang out with our friends and we are kind to our friends and we are loving to our friends, everyone does that. People who are Christians, non-Christians, everyone in the world. But Jesus wants us to be different. Jesus wants us to love those who hate us, those people who we might hate. Jesus wants us to be different. And with this video, I hope to help you with how to do that. There's also a beautiful parable in the Bible where Jesus kind of explains how this love is something we can show to the world. So will you read with me in Luke 10, verse 35 to 37? And behold, a lawyer stood up to put him to the test, saying, "Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" He said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" And he answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And he said to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this and you will live." But he, desiring to justify himself, said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. Now, by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, who came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine. Then he set him on his own animal and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And the next day he took out 2 denarii and gave it to the innkeeper, saying, 'Take care of him, and whatever more you spend I will repay you when I come back.' Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers?" He said, "The one who showed him mercy." And Jesus said to him, "You go and do likewise." Now, to understand this, we need to understand the situation with Samaritans and Jews. You see, those two were enemies of each other. The Samaritans believed they were the true Israel. They had their own scriptures, and they believed that the scriptures the Jews believed in were wrong. And the spiritual leaders of both the Samaritans and the Jews forbid their people to talk to each other. So Samaritans and Jews were not even allowed to talk to each other. But even with this rule, this Samaritan who saw this Jew beat up, laying there, took care of him, where a priest and a Levite just walked past him. And this is how Jesus wants to show us that our neighbor is not just the one who we love. Our neighbor is everyone around, even those who we don't like, even those who are our enemy. We should show God's love to them as well. Even though it's really hard, we should always try to love our enemies. That's something Jesus is so clear about in the Bible. But like I said, it is hard. And I hope with this video I can give you a few tools you can use to love your enemy, or teach yourself to love your enemy more and to show that love into the world. So, I have 3 points to share with you. And first of all, I want to share that this is something that I learned from other people. Some things God told me. Some things I heard a preacher say on stage. Some things come from experience. It's not my words. It's God wanting me to share this with you so you can be better in loving your enemy. So the first thing I want to share with you is point number 1. Follow your enemy. So this is something I heard at a conference a while ago. And at first I was a little confused. Because on social media you see everyone fighting with each other. You know, people disagree on vaccines and then someone posts something and everybody gets into the comments to discuss their opinions. And then you need to follow someone who has a completely different opinion of you. But yes, that's what you need to do. Because if you follow one of those people, you can see their humanity. You can see their life. You can see that they have a family. You can see who they love. You can see other things they do instead of that opinion they have. You know, the easiest way to love someone is to get to know someone. And that's why on social media, it's a good training for yourself to be more loving to people, to start following people who are different from you, who you don't like, people who you hate, people who have different opinions. Because with following them, you can understand them, you can learn more about them. After I heard this at a conference, I tried it and I do notice the difference. I thought at first I was gonna be really annoyed because people post stuff that I don't agree with, and then I thought I would get annoyed. But you know, they don't only post those things, they post other things as well that show who they are, and it helps you love them better. It helps you see them through God's eyes, that they are more than just the opinion they have. So let's continue until the second point, and that is pray for your enemy. You know, Jesus even says this in the text in Matthew 5. He says, pray for your enemy. And this is something that is not easy. Praying for someone who hurt you. Praying for someone who didn't like you. But praying for someone is so powerful. You know, praying on its own is something that is powerful. But praying for someone you hate or dislike is even more powerful. You see, hate or dislike is not something that comes from God. It's something that comes from the enemy. And those negative emotions are a way for the enemy to try to get you to sin. To try to get you to not love your enemy, but be angry with them. And if you set those feelings aside and pray for your enemy, you have a victory over the devil in that moment. You know, Jesus says in Matthew 5 how important it is to pray for your enemy. But Jesus also gives a beautiful example about this himself. When Jesus was on the cross, he was praying to God, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He prayed this for the people who crucified him. There's a reason why this sentence is so famous. There's a reason why so many people know about this sentence, even people who are not Christians. And it is because Jesus shows us here the love he has. He's talking about the people who crucified him, and that is powerful. I think so many people found faith by knowing what Jesus did there, by the words that Jesus spoke there. So I want to go to my last point, which is point number 3. Listen to your enemy. You know, talking to your enemy may even be the first big step. But talking is one thing, and listening is a whole other thing. You know, the Bible talks a lot about how listening is the best thing to do. I want to share one Bible verse about this with you. It's in James 1 verse 19. Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger. There are a lot of verses in the Bible about listening, but I feel like this one is so clear in what God wants us to do. Be slow to speak and be quick to hear. So picture this, you're in an argument with someone and it's their turn to speak. But the moment the first sentence comes out, you already feel the need to respond. And with that need to respond, you kind of ignore all the things they're saying, may even interrupt them. Maybe you're not interrupting them, but you let them finish, but you're not even listening to what they have to say because you're so eager to respond to that first part. And you're not even listening that maybe the part after that was explaining that first part for you. You know, this is something I do a lot of times, and I try to teach myself to be slow to speak and listen first. And I know it's hard because you want to say your piece. But there's a reason why it's so important to listen. Listening helps us understand others, helps us understand why someone did what they did. So if you're in an argument, try to think of that and try to understand why they did what they did, why they think differently than you. Try to understand each other's point of view, and the only way to do is to listen. Listen what they are saying, listen to what they are doing, why they were doing it, instead of trying to explain yourself. And with all these things, the goal is to start loving people you don't like, people you hate, or who are your enemy. Because with showing them love, that's how God shows his love through us. That's how we can shine God's light on others. So I hope you liked this video, and if so, then please give a thumbs up. Also, if you want to see more of these videos, then please subscribe to my channel, and then I will see you in my next video.